Jackie Antunes, and I am the Executive Director of Wally's House. We are Curry County's Child Abuse Intervention Center, and we provide services for children in our county where there is allegations or suspected abuse. I'd like to let you know what our vision and our mission are. I've got them on our little coupon book that we have this year. Our vision is a community free of child abuse and neglect, where everyone is invested in raising safe, healthy, and cared for children. And our mission is to provide compassionate intervention, assessment, and advocacy for victims and their families while supporting a child-focused, community-based system of prevention and healing. First of all, let me clarify, I've had people tell me that there's a misconception or that there are people out in our community who think that we house children here. And we do not. We are not a residential program. We are not a children's center. We provide medical services. We provide the forensic interviews and advocacy for children and their families when there is a case where someone has reported abuse or a child has disclosed that something has happened to them. DHS and or law enforcement are called in, and they call us with the referral, and we schedule it with them here to observe. When we do an interview for a child, a forensic interview for a child, the child and the interviewer are in the room, and it is recorded so that the child doesn't have to have multiple interviews. We try to get all the information that we possibly can in one interview. So usually law enforcement and Department of Human Services, when I said DHS, it's Department of Human Services, Child Welfare Services, is here observing the interview along with the district attorney sometimes. And sometimes juvenile department if there is a child that has been the victim of another child, then we like to include the juvenile department in observing that, because they take the lead on what happens with the child if it's determined that they have harmed another child. So those are the places where, or the community partners that we work with. We also work with Safety City in Brookings. So in the summertime when Dan Palicki and his volunteers are putting on Safety City, we go down and we show a video and we talk to the kids about what to do when someone, or if someone tries to break the rules. And it's a nice little video called I'm the Boss of My Body. It's pretty much anecdotal and easy to watch, and it opens up dialogue for the children and their care providers, whether it be teachers or moms, dads, grandparents, family members, that type of thing. We have, on our board, we have room for 13 board members. We have currently 11 serving on our board, so we have a really nice, robust board. We have a committee that is working on events and fundraising occasions for us. So I think we've got some really healthy things going on and starting for us in the way of community involvement. We have on our board, we have individuals from Brookings as well as School Beach and Port Orford. So I feel like we have a really nice rounded representation of our community on our board, because we don't just serve Gold Beach. We serve all of Curry County, from clear up in Langlois all the way down into Harbor and to the California border. We also serve children who are members of the Talo Deli Nation, and because they have family they live here in Curry County, and so the tribe serves both sides of the California and Oregon border. So there's been instances where we've been able to work with them as well. They're a wonderful community partner. if you suspect abuse, or if you see a child that's being hurt, please pick up the phone and call the screening hotline for Department of Human Services, which is 855-503-7233. Also, call your local law enforcement. But if you're in Brookings, pick up the phone and call the police if you see something happening, or if a child tells you something has happened to them. If you're in Gold Beach, if you're in Port Orford, call your local law enforcement. Law enforcement and Department of Human Services are required to cross-report. So we a lot of times have both organizations in here observing the interview, and what happens is the interviewer will ask the questions of the child and let the child tell their story, but then they come out and they check with the team to make sure that they're getting all the information. Like I said, it's important, if we possibly can, to get that child to tell their story in one sitting without having to be questioned time after time after time and re-traumatized by all of the questioning and interviewing. I like to tell people that if only one child needed my services, they should have the same services as if I was doing this every day, all day. And I also would like to say, if people quit hurting kids tonight and I didn't have a job to come to tomorrow, that would be okay. I'd find another job. But while people are hurting kids in Curry County, I'm here to stand in the fray and do what I can to make sure that those children have the services they need, and those that are at risk are being given the preventative materials and information that they need to help them out. Like I said, we work with Safety City. We are trying to help schools connect with the materials that they need for their errands law requirements. And we also are working with Coos County to do what's called Darkness to Light. So that's a program that educates adults as well on how to prevent child abuse and what to watch for and how to identify it. So last year we had 46 cases. The highest number of cases we've had since I've been in the job is 52 in a year. So compared to Coos County, their center has done, last year did 400 interviews. So we do about a tenth, 10% of what has going on in the county to the north of us. I think that there's probably other cases out there that we could and should be involved in. It's just getting the word out and people understanding what it is we do, and people that are seeing things that are concerned to them reporting it, so that the proper authorities can intervene and we can help children and their families. Nobody here wants to rip families apart. Mm-hmm. We're here to do the interview for law enforcement and Department of Human Services and get children who are in abusive circumstances the help that they need, and get their families the help that they need, so that healing can begin and families and children can do better. That's the goal.
Is it primarily physical abuse, or is it sexual abuse, or is it a combination?
It's a combination. I didn't even think to work up the statistics on what those are, but I've done interviews where the victim is a male, and it's sexual abuse. Female sexual abuse. About 1 in 10 children are abused, mm-hmm. sexually abused, and it's not usually someone that they know. It's not the big bad boogeyman. Mm-hmm. It's somebody that they know and trust, and that their family trusts. Mm-hmm. So, and that makes it sometimes worse than if it was a complete stranger. Interviewing children, I have interviewed children as young as 18 months, all the way up to 17, 18 years of age, almost 18. Um, the 18-month-old was pretty good language skills. A lot of times they don't. And she was just interested in playing. There hadn't been anything that she was ready to talk about, or that anything that happened that was concerning to her and caused her to want to tell me anything. It's, as a forensic interviewer, it's not my job to determine whether something happened or not. It's just my job to talk to a child in a way that is non-leading and is open-ended, so the child can tell their narrative. And sometimes they have something pretty serious to talk about, and other times they just want to draw and talk. And I one time was asked what I determine or consider to be a successful forensic interview, and it really is about building rapport with the child. If I can build rapport with the child and we can talk about anything, then I feel like we've had a successful interview. I'm not out to find a disclosure. I mean, if there's something there that has someone's hurt the child and they're able to talk about it and tell me what happened to them, that also helps those in doing the investigation. But I'm not out to create or fabricate with the child anything. It's all their narrative about what's happened to them. I think sometimes people feel like, well, I know in the 80s there was a lot of things that happened, and that from that and the way that the interviews were mishandled created what is now the forensic interviewing way that we do it now, that really lets the child talk and tell their story the way in their own words. In Oregon, we have a very unique law called Carly's Law, and Carly Sheehan was a 3-year-old that lived in Lynn County, and she was murdered by abuse. And had the right eyes been on her and the people trained to identify and diagnose her abuse, her life might have been saved. So now, if a child has bruises, burns, cut, and they're in places where they shouldn't, where it's not normal and the stories don't match up, especially. But if a child is, if it has a black eye, or they're losing their hair, or they've had multiple broken bones, it's cause for someone to say, hey, wait a minute, let's take a closer look at this child. So law enforcement is required to take a picture if they're the ones that are on scene. DHS has to take a picture. The child has to be seen by the designated medical professional for the multidisciplinary team, and the injuries looked at closely to determine whether or not it's something that could have happened by accident, or if the story just really is suspicious. So lives are being saved by this law, and it's really unfortunate that a little girl had to lose her life in order for everyone to step up and start looking more closely at the injuries of kids. I think sometimes that we see kids, and because we live in a more rural area and they've got bumps and bruises and stuff, we don't even think that it could be abuse. But then there are other times where it's it's pretty obvious that something isn't right. We've that old hand mark on the face, it's I don't know.
Who refers most of these cases? I mean,
Law enforcement or Department of Human Services.
So the people who go to law enforcement, they're just like neighbors or mandatory reporters?
It's, it could be a woman in a parking lot seeing somebody shaking their kid like a rag doll. But it's, it can be mandatory reporters. Sometimes it's family, extended family. Sometimes it's the neighbor. It's, it's concerned citizens.
Does Oregon have, in Massachusetts, mandatory reporters are mandatory reporters.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of us were encouraged to report, but also knew that we would not be identified. We were able to be anonymous. Is that how it is in Oregon too? If I, as a citizen, report somebody,
You can say that you want to remain anonymous. When we have a centralized screening process now in Oregon. So you call one number from anywhere in the state and they screen it and then they send it to whichever county it's supposed to go to. That's new within the last couple of years. It's been coming to different counties, and I think now most of the state, if not all the state, is now on board with that centralized screening. It as a small county and knowing all your caseworkers and stuff, it was a little disconcerting to kind of realize that you just can't pick up the phone and call, a caseworker and say, hey, I saw this, I'm concerned or whatever. Now it has a process that it goes through, and there's an algorithm that runs that program. At my last network meeting, we actually saw the person who is doing that. I am the interviewer for Wally's House. We also have other community partners that have gone to the forensic interviewer training, and so if I can't do an interview, like if I have a conflict of interest or I'm out of the area, then we have someone in the county still that can do the forensic interviews. And those interviews or the interviewers are trained by the Oregon Child Forensic Interviewing training team. They call it OCFIT. And so they hold about three trainings a year within the state for people who need that training. And it's a 40-hour training, and then throughout, once you've completed your training, depending on where you're at, the different centers have different protocols as to how quickly people can get into interviewing, because we are so small an area and have so few cases compared to the other centers. When I started, I got trained in May and I came back and we had a case and I needed to do the interview right then and there, and I was the only forensic interviewer at the time. Other places, other centers have you observe so many interviews and then conduct practice interviews and that type of thing. That's not the luxury that we get to have here. We had to just jump into it and do it. So we have 2 detectives from the Sheriff's Department that are trained, a parole and probation officer that worked in my job that is trained to do them, and then we have a DHS worker and another county employee that are able to do those interviews, and it's all also on their availability too. So if I were to leave, I'd try and, well, I'd not try, I have the list that others have, so my ladies here in the office can then contact the partners and see who's available for that interview. We are funded mainly by, by grants. We have our grants that help Wally's House run are the Child Abuse Multidisciplinary Intervention Fund, which is from the Oregon State Department of Justice Crime Victims Services Division, Crime Victims and Survivors Services Division. So they've added survivors in there. So they have the CAMI fund, and that's a strictly an Oregon fund and grant that comes through to all of the counties. and it's controlled by the multidisciplinary team under the direction of the district attorneys. Our past district attorney, Everett Dial, chose to have all of the funds come to this program because it was a small amount of money, and he wanted to make sure that we had someone in place to do forensic interviews and track the cases and make sure that the multidisciplinary team members that wanted to go to Summit in Portland were able to do that. So we coordinate that every year for the team members that want to go. We are funded also by the Victims of Crime Act money, VOCA, and that comes from the federal government through the state of Oregon. So the Department of Justice also in Oregon controls and monitors those funds and collects the statistics for the federal government. Other states, it doesn't work that way. You just apply directly to the federal government. It's kind of comforting to have some state oversight on that and have someone local that we can talk to. And when I say local, I mean in our state that we can talk to, and I don't have to worry about trying to talk to somebody clear across the country in Washington, D.C. about my grant application and my funds and that type of thing. We've been fortunate enough to have a grant from the Collins Foundation that helped pay for our advocate program when we were just getting up and running and getting our advocate in place, because now the VOCA funds pay for our advocate. And then we had a grant from the Oregon Community Foundation, and that has paid for our administrative assistant / advocate. So I cross-train the other 2 employees here at the center to do the advocacy and work with the children and the families when they come in. We don't ever charge the families that come here. What we do is completely supported, like I said, by the government grants and by foundation grants. We are working to be able to bill insurance, but a family will never receive a bill from us. Statute requires that child advocacy centers are used in the investigation, and so we're also trying to impress upon our legislature as a network, the Oregon Network of Child Abuse Intervention Centers. We are trying to impress upon them, if you're going to tell us to do something and you want us to do it in this specific way, then you need to make sure that those funds are there so that it can be done equitably. I can't talk. We're
Okay.
Okay, equitably. Equitably.
Equitably.
Yes, equitably. Anyway, yep. So that if a child in Curry County requires a medical examination, needs the therapy that the National Children's Alliance says is the best kind of therapy for trauma, and needs to have the forensic interview, they should have the very same services as a child in our more populated areas have. And so that's something that we're working to try and make sure that there's funding to make sure that those services are happening for the children in our homestead and rural areas just as well as the children in our bigger cities. Wally's House got its name because when we first in our county started getting services in place and forensic interviews were being done, the organization that was doing it was called the Curry Child Advocacy Team, and they did the forensic interviews and the medical exams and that type of stuff for the community partners, and then and that was a nonprofit organization. Then it moved under the county's district attorney and became the Curry Advocacy Center, I believe is what it was, Curry County Advocacy Center. And it morphed into the Curry Child Abuse Intervention Center. And then throughout several years prior to even becoming a forensic interviewer and working for the county, I was in Seroptimus with Jerry Honeycutt. And she mentored me in being a seroptimist and being their treasurer and different roles within the group. And I got to know her husband, Wally Honeycutt, and in 2014 I took the job, and he'd ask me questions, and he was always interested in what I was doing, and he did pass away August of 2014, and Jerry and I were on our way to a Seroptimus function, and she had worked in the offices where we were doing our interviews and had our interview room and basically our center, which it was in the basement of the courthouse. Mm-hmm. And a child abuse intervention center is supposed to be child-friendly, non-threatening. Best practices has it independent from anything that is remotely looks like it's law enforcement or that type of thing. So she said, I know what a center should be, and she said, I'm going to buy a building, and I'm trying to decide what to do with it, and I'm thinking of doing a couple of different things with it, and one of them would be a child advocacy center. And I just kind of looked at her and blurted, we could call it Wally's house. And it went from there. By December, she'd bought the property. March, she was in the building here and with contractors and laying out what it should look like and doing the remodel. And that following October, we moved into the building. And so we were in here our first, October 2015 was when we moved in here and took possession of the building. She has not donated it yet to the nonprofit. She said she wants to donate it to the nonprofit. The stipulation was if she was going to do this, I needed to get a board going and start a nonprofit, and she would donate it to a nonprofit. In the meantime, she rented it to the county for our use for $1 a month. Mm-hmm. So, very big-hearted, generous lady. Really has a heart for children and wants to see things done well. So we've been at the nonprofit piece. I started recruiting people in, we had our first meeting February of 2015 and achieved nonprofit status. I want to say it was August of 16, but then of course it went back all the way to January 1st of 2016. So we've been a nonprofit. Wally's House, Curry Child Abuse Intervention Center, has been a nonprofit since 2016. This past July 1st, all of the responsibilities and management and funds from the Child Abuse Multidisciplinary Intervention Fund transferred out of the county and to the nonprofit. So we manage those for our county's multidisciplinary team. And all of those records and responsibility now are put on the nonprofit. And that makes it easier for us to get grants and build funding and not have to go through the county processes. We of course have a board, we have our bylaws and the protocols that we go by for our procedures here are the protocols that are put in place for the multidisciplinary team. So we're not, we're an added resource, and we're here to help with the cases, help the community partners with the cases.
Do you get any funding from the county at all?
We do not. We do not. It doesn't mean that down the road, if they, are able to come into funds, that we couldn't go to them and ask for help. Right now, we're using the CAMI dollars and the different grants that we have applied for. What's really huge, what I learned from being involved with the Oregon Network of Child Abuse Intervention Centers is just because you have grants and you have money in the bank doesn't mean that you are, doing A-OK. Those dollars that you've applied for in the grant are for specific things. And so it's really important that when you do fundraisers and when you send out the appeal letter, that you have those unrestricted funds. Those are funds that you and your board have determined what's going to happen with those, but you don't have the outside oversight from a grant that you applied for saying, we're going to buy 500 Christmas trees or whatever, if you set it in the grant, that's what you have to use it for when they give you those monies. So that's a big concern, is always having those unrestricted funds in place. Because we do with our VOCA grant, that federal money, you can be awarded that money, but they're not just going to hand it to you. What happens is you spend out the money, and then at the end of the quarter, you submit your report, and then they send you the money to reimburse you for that. So there's the reimbursement grants are the ones that are, they're nice to have, and the money's important to keep your programs going, but you've got to have those funds in order to pull from so that you can be reimbursed. When I first started with the county, there were CAMI dollars there, and they were pulling strictly from the CAMI fund. There was a lot more work that needed to be done and a lot more organizing that needed to be done, so I would claim my hours that I was supposed to have, but my husband likes to say I, volunteered.
Yeah.
The other part of it. I'm just a worker bee. And so if it needed to be done, I did it. When David Brock Smith was still a commissioner here, he was our liaison at the DA's office. And I was going through applying for the grant from CAMI, and we were going through the county budget, and he was asking me, how many hours I worked, and, because managing just the CAMI grant that was quite a lift for me. I hadn't done grant work before, so I was learning how to do grant work, and I was learning that what was written in the grant and termed in the grant didn't always match up with the line that we had in the county, so I had to figure out where it was that it was, the county was putting it in their budget to match with they named it differently in the county line than what it was named in the CAMI line, but so I would have to figure all that out, and you had to figure out what was salary and what was personnel costs, which was of course taxes and union dues and insurance from the county, and so then you have to report that in certain areas of the grant in their personnel line. So I'm trying to figure all that out, and David Brock Smith was asking me, well, how many hours are you working? What does it entail? And I was telling him all the tasks that I was doing and different things. And he went to Everett Dial and he said, you need to take a couple of years. Because at that time we were in the works of creating the nonprofit and trying to spin away from the county. He said, we need to support her as a county to help her do the work she needs to do so that she can launch off of the county and become a nonprofit. We wouldn't be here if Brock Smith hadn't advocated for us to do things the way that the DA did them at that time. county budget, county monies are always tight, and I'm very appreciative of the fact that Everett listened to David Brocksmith, and he also felt like what we were doing was important to happen. So he was light-handed. I mean, he didn't micromanage. He allowed me to do what I needed to do to write the grants for the nonprofit side, as well as take care of the county side of things. So some of the ways that people can donate to Wally's House without dipping into their own coffers. If you're a shopper on Amazon and you have Amazon Prime, there is a feature to Amazon called Amazon Smile. It's smile.amazon. And whatever nonprofit you want to support, you go in and you see if they're registered. Wally's House is actually registered as the Curry Child Abuse Intervention Center. That's what our nonprofit name is. That's what we have our 501c3 number. I think that's what it's called today. So that's what we are in Amazon Smile. The catch to that is if you just go onto your Amazon page or your Amazon Prime page and you do all your shopping and you assume that Amazon is going to pull that little percentage and send it off to who you want the money to go to, that's not going to happen. And I learned that the hard way. We made some considerable purchases through Amazon, and then when I checked my Amazon Smile donation thing, we weren't getting any credit for it. So you have to make sure that you're going to the Smile page, Amazon Smile. And now, because I think enough people probably raised Cain and called and chewed them about it, it does kind of, if you're on the wrong page and you're registered to have Amazon donate to a nonprofit that you want to support, it'll pop up a little banner and ask you if you want to go to your Amazon Smile. Not always, but I've noticed that that's happened sometimes when I get on the wrong Amazon page. So you can make sure Amazon gives back some of the money that you're spending with them and have them give it to your nonprofit of choice. Like I said, ours is Curry Child Abuse Intervention Center. We also, one of our board members or employees registered us with Kroger. So we just got a small check from Kroger not too long ago. So if you want to see Kroger donate to a nonprofit that you feel is worthy and want to support, you can go in and do that. And I believe, again, that is also under our nonprofit name of Curry Child Abuse Intervention Center. Another way that Wally's House can benefit from someone that wants to donate is we also have Facebook campaigns. So if you're on Facebook, we have a Facebook page of Wally's House, and sometimes we have a donate button on one of our little daily things that pop up. We also have a website, www.wallyshouse.org, and that has a donate button on it. It also has a place where you can purchase our 2019-2020 coupon book. We're selling them for $25 a piece. Now, if you buy one and you want to buy more for more people, each coupon book after that's $20. So I've had some people decide, I think I got about 5 people I want to give them to, so you can get 5 for $100. So that's our, and it's a coupon book that's county-wide. So we have coupons in here from Brookings, coupons for Gold Beach, as well as coupons for Port Orford. So I even have some realtor friends who have bought these, and then they include them as a gift for their new purchasers that are just buying homes in the county, and it helps people get to know the county better. Like I said, the unrestricted funds are huge. So we had a couple of sponsors that gave us about a total of $300, and we were able to utilize the printing and create our own coupon books. Depending on how the board feels it goes, we may do that next year. The other thing that we have coming up is April is Child Abuse Awareness Month, so we'll be doing some kind of a Go Blue Day in April. I don't have a specific date for that yet. My event committee is currently working on a fall event, and we're looking at it happening in October. So watch Facebook, listen to the radio, keep your eye out for flyers. Probably July we'll start putting up flyers. July or August we'll have the flyers up and be selling tickets for that. So it's looking like we're going to do some kind of a country theme, some kind of barbecue and barn dance type stuff. I don't know, something fun, something to get people out of the house and enjoying their time and supporting what we do here. We are a county center, and we only serve Curry County. Some of the centers are serving 3 or 4 counties, and they have to drive a long way to get to that center and have those services provided. We're pretty fortunate that our county is the size that it is, and somebody can get to the center within 30 to 40 minutes. Over us, within the Department of Justice CAMI structure, our regional CAC is Jackson County CAC. So if we need any type of mentoring or training, that's who we reach out to. With the forensic interviewing that is done here at Wally's house, they either go to them or participate through video conferencing, or they come here to do what's called peer review. So we look at our interviews, we select interviews randomly and then sit down as a team and make sure that the interview is being done according to the standards that are set out for the interviewers, and making sure that we're just sticking to things that are going to, God, I can't even talk anymore. So that the whole point is to make sure when you do peer review that you're sticking to your training and you're making sure that you are asking the questions in the right way of the child, so that narrative is encouraged and not the child's not feeling like they're interrogated. Over our regional CACs then is the Oregon Network of Child Abuse Intervention Centers. Our chapter and some of our centers are accredited with the National Children's Alliance. Within the National Children's Alliance are regionals also. So we are part of the Western Regional CAC organization. So there's a lot of support out there for child advocacy centers or child abuse intervention centers, and they give out scholarships as well to encourage training and to help those within their regions to get benefit of that training. Wally's House is not an accredited center yet. It takes quite a bit to reach accreditation, and the accreditation standards are actually the minimum of what you should be doing as a center. I mean, it seems to be pretty stringent, at times, but if you look at their standards and you shoot above those, then you'll always be doing excellent work. So since we've just spun off to be our own standalone under that nonprofit that we've been working under, we're going to continue to build that nonprofit piece, build in sustainability, and then within, I'd like to see within the next 5 to 7 years, 10 at the outside, I'd like to see our center accredited with the National Children's Alliance. That brings in even more resources and more support. Last 3 years, this will be the 3rd year, I'll be going to Washington, D.C. for the Leadership Conference. That's where you can make sure that you're talking to your representatives at the federal level and thanking them for making sure that they're keeping those victims' compensation dollars coming to our area. So we go in and we sit down with them and we let them know what's happening in our counties and in our state, and that's a good thing. And then there's all kinds of trainings and different information that we're able to bring back to our area from that. So again, and that's also paid for by grant dollars. Some of the, I told you about VOCA, CAMI, Collins Foundation, Oregon Community Foundation. We've also had support from our Curry Health Foundation. We've had support from the Wild Rivers Community Foundation, as well as the Humboldt Area Foundation. So we're, they see the importance of the work we do and want to make sure that those children that do have to come through our doors have the right place to come to and the services here for them. I've done presentations to Rotary all over the county, both our Soroptimists. I've done a presentation to the Emblem Club, and trying to think of where else I've been. I've done, anytime I've been asked to, I've done a presentation on, tried to do a PowerPoint with it.
Do you ever do one to schools?
I have done, I've done the Central Curry School District. I've done a training on Carly's Law and Aaron's Law.
But you never give it to children themselves?
No, I've done the video. I'm the Boss of My Body video. When I first started, I'd go in grades K through 4.
Okay.
And then about the 3rd year that I was doing it, I had a kid go, "We've already seen this video."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, in my head, I said, "Yeah, you have." And so I said, "Yeah, tell me what you learned last time you watched it." You know, you can't get insulted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kids are honest, and I had a lot of kids, you know, tell me everything that they learned about it, everything that they knew about it, and that way they didn't think I was trying to pull one over on them.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you know, "Yep, you have. You know, tell me what you
So
learned."
you can all go in there every 4 years, huh?
Well, I mean, if you hit them, the thing of it is you get kids in there new too, so you're trying to make sure you're getting the new kids. But Aaron's Law requires now that the schools do the education of trying to help kids stay safe from sexual abuse. And there is a program, that is what I did get my Coquille grant for several years ago, was to buy curriculum from Lauren's Kids out of Florida called Safer Smarter Kids. And it's a curriculum that falls right in line with the requirements of Oregon's Aaron's Law, and that is that it's age appropriate and presented for each grade level, K through 12. In fact, they actually have pre-K programs. So when I bought the curriculum, I made sure that the preschool that's here at Riley Creek got it, as well as the Head Start programs in the county. So they have it. I haven't followed up with how often they're using it or if they're utilizing it. Central Curry got the whole, has the system, and I don't know if they adopted that curriculum or not, but they did get that from us. I showed it to the teachers in Brookings, and they were interested in it, and we were trying to get another grant for them to get it. In the meantime, they had to adopt health curriculum at at Kalmiopsis. So Kalmiopsis got a health curriculum that they were hoping would also have everything that was required for the Aaron's Law. What's nice about the Lawrence Kids program, the Safer Smarter Kids, is that it's on a thumb drive. The whole thing is on a thumb drive for, and it's online, so teachers can get the training online that they need, and they can also pay for other training, and they can reproduce it. It's got the Spanish letters and we don't have a lot of Spanish speaking people, but I can't even remember. There's another language too that it has in it. So it's good. I know that the Coos County Center was able to get grants and funding and actually had agreements with the school districts to use it. I wasn't as sophisticated in my approach. When you're just one single person kind of charging at a windmill,
Yeah.
you just do the best you can and hope that, you know, somebody else is able to pick it up and take it from there. Just kind of provide the tease and hope that they pull the string the rest of the way. Some of the organizations that have provided snacks, blankets, stuffed animals, coats. We are the Brookings Emblem Club has provided donations of funds, as well as the quilts that they match with the little beanie babies. They're super cute. We've had assistance from Rotary, where you've just received a grant from them, and we're going to work on some other matching funds so we can do some work around the building into the structure. We want to freshen up the paint and put some gutters on, and paint inside and out of the building. We've been in it now 5 years, so it's starting to show a little bit of wear from us, being in it. We've had I did a presentation to Seroptimist, and the ladies saw our list of things that we need, and so there was all kinds of snacks and juices and toys and that type of stuff from the Brookings Seroptimist group. Mentor Oregon has put together backpacks with hats and scarves and coloring books and teddy bears for kids that come in here and need that type of thing. Little feel-good gift for them if they need a backpack and that type of stuff. Our 4-H archery club here went on our website, and each month got one item off of our list. So on our list we had like paper towels and toilet paper and that stuff. So one month all the members each brought something off of that list. So we still have lots of rolls of paper towels. It's very cool, because that's one thing then you don't have to worry about going and purchasing, because that's been provided for you. The Church of Latter-day Saints, the community outreach group that they have there, makes all kinds of quilts and knit and crochet items and layettes, and so we have some of that here, and then some of it we also share with DHS, the foster children, especially around the holidays. Then Purely Voices, that's the a cappella singing group here in Gold Beach. They get together and sing, and they'll take up donations, and then they've given us their donations on several occasions. So it's always nice to have have that spare cash. We have also had some of the seniors here in the Gold Beach High School, probably because we're in close proximity, make our program a senior project. So they've had a Texas Hold'em night, they've made fleece blankets. We just have had a junior come over and apply to be a volunteer, and she's going to be on our event committee and do some outreach for us and help us with our fundraisers for her senior project next year. So she's really ahead of the game. She's pretty motivated, and we're excited to be able to work with her. Let's see, by Coastal Media, this last year they collected coats in the region, and so we have some coats here. So if we have a child come in that needs a coat, then we're able to make sure that they walk away with a coat and are warm. Advantage Dental provided nice little dental hygiene kits. So if we've had some people come through that are camping and they've had an issue, and so they don't have their stuff, we've put them up in a hotel room, and they have the dental kits for others as well. So the circumstances are varied, and we try to find a way to meet the need when it arises. We have a local contractor here who does our yard work. He has one of his guys at least once a month go through and knock down the weeds in the backyard and keep our place looking fresh. We have master gardeners that have planted in between us and the neighbor, and so we have a nice garden there. When we had the very first Gold Beach Main Street event, and the I think it was the Church of Latter-day Saints also from up and down the coast came. They helped take down the fence that we needed taken down, cut bamboo, strip it. We were able to actually offer those bamboo poles to the community for donation. So if you wanted extra bamboo poles for your garden or whatever, just, come and pick up some bamboo poles and give us a donation. And so we went through those pretty well, and those that we didn't get donations for, after a time they were just hauled away, but it was nice to have just a creative way to use what was here to bring in a few extra dollars. So if you want to find out more information about how you can help kids in our county, our number here at Wally's House is 541-425-5502.